Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Draft Capital here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. I'm Stephen Gillespie, and joining me again, we're reunited, and it feels so good. It's a co-host here for Draft Capital, Mr. Chris LeBron. Chris, how you living, man?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Happy to be back. I had COVID, so it took me down, man. It definitely took me down, but I'm happy to be back and ready to roll.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you back. I'm glad that you and the family are well. We had our bouts with it here at the house for a little bit. Kenneth, the co-host at Breaking the Game was good enough to hold down that end of the house for me. But I'm glad to see that we're all doing well. And Chris, it's going to be mock draft 2.0 here on the show. It's going to be the full first
Yes.
round, not just the lottery mock. And it wouldn't be a lottery mock for Off the Ball Network family without, again, returning guest Ersin Demir. Ersin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks a lot for having me. The lottery was a lot of fun. Now we're going to do the whole first round, and I'm ready, man.
Yeah, man, let's get it. But before we do, just want to remind the good listeners that today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. And unlike all those other bars out there that taste either like old Play-Doh or cardboard, when you eat a Built Bar, you're going to think that you're cheating on your diet with a delicious chocolate dessert. They get a whole bunch of cool flavors like double chocolate, strawberry, peanut butter fudge, all of those great flavors. And when you go to built.com, which is their website, and you place your order, there's also a mystery flavor on there that if you guess right, you can win a prize. Just go to that website, built.com, or promo code off the ball with all caps, no spaces, to get 10% discount because we're such good friends with the fine folks over there. All right, fellas. So before we get into it, Chris, I'll turn this over to you. We already have our order set. We're gonna unveil it as the show goes on here. But what do you think just about the order of the teams that are picking now? It's a lot different from when we did our first one, right?
Yes, that's I know I got the Knicks, so that made me happy. So
There you go.
so hopefully I make Knicks Nation proud and give them someone that they won't boot so badly. So I'm looking forward to that pick because there's a lot of things they need. Trying to see what they need the right player for them. Because there's like I said, they need a lot. They need some point guard play to see if there's someone that in their slot that's there. So I'm looking forward to being the GM of the Knicks and hopefully they actually listen to me. And finally
Okay.
take someone that I actually want them to take. So we'll see.
There you go. And Ersin, man, just a couple of teams that were in our lottery last time. Surprised that a couple of them are here or around about in that same place. The Atlanta Hawks are going to be picking 10th. Just kind of spoiler alert here. The Hawks, they're going to be picking 10th. The Boston Celtics are going to be picking 13th. The Portland Trailblazers are in the top 10 on this mock, which we went to Tankathon and I did the lottery scramble, and it shook out that way. But the Trailblazers are going to be picking 8th on this draft, and the Indiana Pacers sitting around 7th. What do you think about some of the teams that are going to be picking inside the top 10? It's pretty crazy, right?
It's wild, man. I think it's changed a lot, but if you look at the top six range, I think that will be the same. Only if you look at the top six teams in the draft, I think these will stay the same. But the lottery at itself is everything can happen, man. The Knicks can be in the lottery tomorrow. Portland can be in the playoffs in a couple of weeks, playoff spots. So.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look overall, that's the fun of the draft, man. That's the fun of these GMs preparing for the new season. They're never gonna end up, know where you end up in the draft. So I'm very surprised to see, Toronto at 14.
Yep.
I think I had the idea that they will tank this year, so maybe a top 10 pick, a top 8 pick. So, but they are going for the playoffs, man. So that's basketball for you. Everything is,
100%.
not going as expected.
And Chris, you know this too, that just because you have the worst record in the NBA doesn't mean that you're going to be getting that top pick, right? So I think
Yes.
Toronto might be kind of sneaky a little bit this season where they're going to try to hope the odds land them within that top 10 without it looking like a total tank job, what we've seen with teams like Oklahoma City or, the Philadelphia 76ers in years past, right?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part about the NBA is you can go 0-82 and get the fifth pick. So it's crazy how and you can go 42-40, just miss out on the playoffs and 0.05 chance, and then you get Derrick Rose. So it's crazy how it works. Even some teams, as we've seen, are just not putting their best roster forward. And it's we might see a surprise team like Toronto, who's actually playing good for a team was quote unquote rebuilding and still battling, and they can miss out on the playoffs and then boom, get the number 1 pick and add to that already with some good young pieces already. Barnes, we took Barnes last year. He's had a really good season, probably definitely going to be in the running for rookie of the year. And they can add to that and get one of these top, blue chip guys, and really, and they've done good with getting wings. There's a few in this class, especially at the top, that they can get that can really add to that, and and Masai, just make Masai more of a genius than he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, players slide all the time. There's probably going to be people that are upset with our mock draft here today because of certain players, but promise all you listeners and viewers out there, we do our homework on these. I know that all three of us are constantly looking at talent. I mess with my big board 2-3 times every day. I'm never satisfied with it. And I
just changed it up like right before. Like no. I think, oh man, no, man, he's been playing better. I don't care. I'm gonna move him up. It's crazy. Mark, the boards, especially with spreadsheets, it's so easy to be like, all right, just move this.
Yeah, it's almost addicting.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
I'm updating mine now, but it's really hard. And I keep struggling with almost every pick. I think between 10 and 40, I think you make a case for everything, man.
Yeah, I mean, once you get past, I'm of the mindset that the margin of talent between picks like 20 through 40 aren't very, wide at all. So it's going to be fun to see. It's going to be fun to see how we do this. And we know that just because we make a big board doesn't mean that that's going to be the way that we pick based on fit. We've looked at these teams that we're going to be talking about, and we have to consider free agents, and we have to consider who are the top players on this team already, and how we pick from there. And without any delay, guys, again, we went on Tankathon, we did the lottery simulator, and I also did a randomizer as to who was going to be picking. Promise I didn't, just buff up my own standings, but I'm going to be picking first. Ersin, our guest here today, is going to be picking second. And then co-host Chris LeBron is going to be picking last, and we'll just keep cycling, me, Ersin, Chris. So with the first pick in the NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the clock. And I'm not going to draw this out any longer than it needs to be. I recently just went and watched this guy play at the University of South Carolina, Jabari Smith Jr. Now, I will say that he did not play well when I watched him at South Carolina. We had a guy, Chip Jones, on the show a couple weeks ago, and he spoke to us some of the reasons why people need to be cautious with Jabari. I saw those things, but, the defense is there. The shooting is there. He shows passing potential. His playmaking is not top notch yet, but he's so young, he's so athletic, so skilled, and I don't bet against his work ethic. Chris, I'll turn it over to you. How surprised are you that I went with Jabari Smith Jr. here, number 1 overall?
No, definitely not surprised at all. I mean, he has all the tools to be a all-star caliber player at the next level. He probably has the biggest upside, I would say, in this class. So we've talked about him. Like, it wouldn't shock us if he does go number 1. Like, some people have had him pass Chet, right? And which I do. I haven't passed Chet. And then I would, as much as I love, Banchero, I wouldn't be mad if someone said, I think Jabari has bigger upside, and I think, so Jabari number 1, fits right in with OKC's plan. Get them a wing, pair him with Shea. And they already got a couple other good pieces too. Yep. So
Giddey's doing well. I mean,
Josh Giddey, who's the kid from Florida? I'm blanking out.
Man.
Oh yeah, man. And so they got some good young pieces there, Baisley too. So add to that, and they'll continue with all the 200 picks they have.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to be picking for them a couple times here today, and we'll get to that later. But Ersin, before we give it to you for the pick, I'll ask you your thoughts on Jabari Smith Jr. going number 1, and then I'll also put you on the clock picking for the Detroit Pistons number 2 overall.
I think the pick is a good one, because in today's NBA, what you want if you want to win a championship, you want a potential two-way star, And Jabari Smith is a potential two-way star. I think he's a terrific defender. I think terrific is even saying it cautiously, that guy is a machine on defense, man. And on offense, spot up shooting, that's what he brings to that team. That's what they need, and he can be a great partner. We know with Giddy in the backcourt, he can take away a lot of pressure on Shea's hands. Who is carrying the load for the whole team. I think that's the perfect fit for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because that's what they need. Jabari Smith, they need a potential two-way star, and that's what you're getting with Jabari Smith Jr.
Absolutely. All right, so Ersin, you're on the clock here, second overall, picking for the Detroit Pistons. All right, so who you going with for the Motor City?
For the Motor City, I'm going with Paolo Banchero, man, from Duke.
Okay.
And I'm going for the fit here, because for Detroit, I was between, should I go for a wing or should I go for, a forward big man? Because the reason I went for Paolo Banchero is that, if you look at Detroit Pistons backcourt with Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham, those two feel each other very well. I think Killian Hayes is a terrific playmaker, a great defender, and that's what Cade needs, because if you look at the Detroit team, Cade is the closest guy to a two-way potential, two-way monster. But they need buckets, man. And I think Jerian Grant, I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. But if they put him, if they keep him, they put him at the 3, and they put Paolo Banchero at the 4, he's good at spacing the floor, creating his own offense. And that's what they need, Because if you look at that depth chart, they got Luka Garza, they got Isaiah Stewart. I think they got Trey Lyles. I think those are not guys Detroit are going to build around, So I think even Banchero can play center in the NBA. That's one thing I want to add. A lot of guys don't really expect him to play center, mostly at the four spot. But he can, with his 250 pounds, he can really take it to the rim and held his man there. Because the concern I have with Paolo is his defense, but I'm not overly concerned in the sense that he's just like Zion, a terrific offense player but a bad defender. I think Paolo can do good things on both ends of the floor, and he's a perfect fit for Killian and Cade, and that's what that brought me to Detroit with Paolo Banchero.
No, and that's fair. And Chris, I'll turn this over to you. You got who I'm calling, Jabari Parker actualized. I'm not saying that as a slight for Paolo Banchero, but there were a lot of similarities between the two. Not that I think that Paolo is going to have a negative career, kind of like what Jabari Parker had, but I think that we can see with Paolo Banchero what all the promise was that surrounded Jabari Parker coming out of Duke. And I think that that's a good thing, right? So before we turn it over to you picking third for the San Antonio Spurs here, what do you think of the fit with Banchero and Cade Cunningham? I mean, to me, that seems like it's going to be fun basketball to watch.
Oh yeah, that's if Detroit, if they don't get the number 1 pick, they get 2, and this is what happens. They're doing jumping jacks. This is an absolute home run. Pair him with Cade. Still got Killian, Isaiah Stewart. This would be an absolute great fit. Paolo. I feel like with Paolo, he's so smooth that people kind of think that, oh, he may not be trying. I've heard that, or just they don't see the upside because he makes everything look so easy because he's so big and all. Even when people talk about the defense, and even when they played Miami yesterday and they lost, but there was just some plays guys are just going into him and they just can't do nothing because he doesn't even have to jump because he's so strong. They just get into him and he's not even jumping and he's blocking shots and all that. So he may not be an all-world defender, but I think he could be a solid defender simply because he's 250 pounds. And as we see the league, there's not a lot of big guys like that in the league no more. I think he'd be able to get in front of people and stop them simply off his size and all that. And that's something Zion needs to learn how to do whenever he gets healthy and all that, because he's bigger than most, physically 260 pounds. So, but that would be a home run pick for Detroit if he lands there. That would be a great building blocks, and the future would be bright for Detroit.
No, for sure. And I mean, how strong of a front court would you have with Banchero and Isaiah Stewart? Like, I mean, you got Stewart running, running enforcer.
And they ain't scared either, too. We saw what happened with Isaiah Stewart and the whole LeBron James situation. And Banchero, we've seen him want to take over and be the dude at Duke, and he's
got that same mindset where he's a dog too, man. I mean, you got Cade kind of as a table setter. That could be a fun little treat. I mean, not saying Isaiah Stewart is going to be huge, moving forward in the NBA, but I mean, there's some things to like with that matchup. So Chris already teased it a little bit. You got the third overall pick. You're picking for Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. Who you rocking with here?
I'm going to go with Chet Holmgren.
Okay.
Gives them a piece that they can continue to build off, with the youth movement, because it's crazy to think that San Antonio is kind of in that next phase of their franchise, and they're trying to build back. They got some good young guards and wings, and I was thinking Jaden Ivey, but I was like, I know they got some guys who are free. I think Lonnie Walker's a free agent and all that, but I don't want to crowd that backcourt even more.
Yeah.
So I figured give him a guy who can, even if the offense doesn't come along right away, I think him as a rim protector, it would be huge for them, and just gives them another piece that they could potentially build. And I think San Antonio is going to figure this out quicker than most teams who go through that rebuild stage. So I'm going to go Chet Holmgren.
No, I like Chet. He wasn't going to fall past 4 for the team that I'm going to be picking for. I was really falling in love with the idea of having Chet and, Franz Wagner as a defensive front court with some funky playmaking too. But, I think you did what Greg Popovich would have done, taking a guy like Chet Holmgren who, I'm glad that the conversation has steered away from what he looks like now. And we're talking about how good of a basketball player he is.
Mm-hmm.
I love that's happening now. Ersin, before I pick number 4 for the Orlando Magic, what do you think about the possibility of Chet Holmgren being a San Antonio Spur?
I think it's a good pick. As you said, is a typical, Popovich guy. I think he can be molded into everything that the team needs. And, San Antonio Spurs are a very strong pick and roll playing team, and I think that's a challenge for Chet. I think if he can add that to his game, with pick and pop, because he's a great 3-point shooter. I think that's a great fit for the San Antonio Spurs, and it's a logical one because he's a unicorn. And if you look at San Antonio, Popovich with the whole development system there, these are the guys they're looking for, because I think if tomorrow the Spurs have to pick at number 3 and Chet is on the board, they pick him, man, without hesitation.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their free agents right now. They're losing a whole lot of front court guys and wing guys, so kind of going for a big here who has playmaking ability too. And I think that's a fun wrinkle of Chet's game that a Greg Popovich would be able to utilize very well with pick and roll sets and cutting, maybe some DHOs, things like that with Chet Holmgren there. All right, so number 4, and I don't think that we shocked anybody. Just to recap the order of the players that were taken in the top 3, Jabari Smith Jr., Paolo Banchero, and Chet Holmgren. That's been the 3 so far the entire season as far as, who the top 3 players in the draft are. Now for the Orlando Magic is where it gets fun, and kind of thinking on the fly and where everybody fell, looking at who Orlando has on their roster. Cole Anthony's blowing up. I'm not going to give up on Jalen Suggs. Franz Wagner is there. They got Wendell Carter, Mohamed Bamba. There's not really a center that I would feel comfortable taking 4th overall, and they kind of got enough combo guards here. So I'm kind of deviating a little bit from best player available, but I still think that he's going to be a really good fit for this team because of his positional size and his versatility. I'm going to take Benedict Matheran out of Arizona. I think the defense that he has on that team, the length, he's still fairly young, even though he's a sophomore, really good 3-point shooter as well. He won't have to handle the ball on this team because they have enough ball handlers and playmakers on the squad. So he can kind of do what he does best and move well without the basketball. There's guys on this team who can set screens for him. There's guys who can give him the ball in the spots that he wants. And I still think that there's room to grow, and there's less pressure on a team like an Orlando Magic than there are almost anywhere else. I think that a Benedict Matheran could go and play. Chris, what do you think about Benny Matheran from Arizona going 4th overall to the Orlando Magic?
It's a good fit, get them a wing. It's crazy, the rise, right? His rise has been it's been crazy. There's a chance he could be a top 5 pick. It's a real thing. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Gone from kind of unknown, freshman year, you see some flashes, comes back. And that's going to be the basis of a lot of guys we're going to, potentially pick, is those guys who you see flashes as a freshman, they come back as sophomores and they've taken off. So, it's no longer you just want to take freshmen in the upside. There's some sophomores in this class that have just as much upside as some of these freshmen and these overtime guys and the G League guys. So I think that's one of the things we'll see a lot. But with Benedict, yeah, he's the rise has been has been so great, and it'd be a good fit for him. He'll pair him up. Cole Anthony. Franz Wagner has been tremendous. You give him add another potential scoring, option at the wing, and then this guy who could play some defense. Orlando could be doing some good things. They got some good young pieces there, so that'd definitely be a good fit for him.
All right, Ersin, before I give it to you for the 5th pick overall with the Houston Rockets, what do you think of the fit with Matheran and the Orlando Magic?
I love the pick, man. Because I was, with the earlier draft that we did, I was a bit higher than him in consensus. I think
and credit to you for that. You did a great
game.
job scouting him, yeah.
I appreciate it, man. Because the self-creation on that guy, that's a very underrated part of his game, because what he does, he can create his own shot, but he can also take it to the rim. If you look at his amount of dunks, I'm not having numbers in front of me. I think it was like 1.5 dunks a game. So he's creating his own offense, and he's very versatile with it. Inside, outside. And I think he's a great catch and shooter, but also when you need a bucket, he's going to get it for himself. I think that's a tough shot maker, a shot creator. Those things are very rare, and I think rebuilding teams, especially like the Orlando Magic, they have such a versatile roster. These are the things they're looking for, because Benedict Matheran, I think, is a great pick. I love it. I love it that you're so high on him.
Yeah, he's not the highest guy. I think maybe 1 or 2 guys that I would say are higher on my board, but I just think he's a cleaner fit than the other 2 guys. And I don't think that his talent is that far behind the other 2 as well, to where you can kind of go, okay, I'd like this fit better, despite him maybe not being as high talent level wise for the other 2 guys, which I'm expecting to be taken by the next time I pick, but we'll see because it's draft day, baby. All right, so Ersin, number 5 overall for the Houston Rockets. I mean, they got Jalen Green last season. We've seen what they're doing with some of their other guys, and Alperen Şengün, Christian Wood. Is he going to be there? Is Kevin Porter Jr. going to be there with everything that we've been seeing lately? Houston needs an injection of talent and excitement, man. Who are you taking for him?
For the Houston Rockets, I'm going with another guy from Duke, Adrian Griffin Jr., man.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because if you look at Adrian Griffin Jr.'s game, I think he's still a bit raw, but upside in that guy is incredible, man. Because if you look at the Houston's roster today, a lot of those guys are not going to be there anymore, man. Eric Gordon, he's likely going to be moved. And he fits perfectly in the mold that they're having. Jason Tate is a great defender. I think Jalen Green, that's the guy they're going to build around, of course. But if you look at Adrian Griffin's game, he's so versatile. I can see him defend 2, 3s, and 4s. But I think in the NBA he will mainly play as a 3, on the wing as a small forward, as you say, because Adrian Griffin is so raw, and Houston is not winning games for the next 1, 2 seasons, so they can take his time with him. And I think Adrian Griffin Jr., despite all the injury problems, if he doesn't have those injury problems, you can make a case for picking him number 1. But I think the fit for the Houston Rockets is perfect. Adrian Griffin Jr., a guy that they can develop slowly. And of course, it's still January, so he's getting a lot of minutes in Duke lately. So his role might grow and his stock could improve, Maybe he can be a top 3 pick, maybe top 2. I think it's very, very open for him still.
Yeah, and I think that that's a fair assessment. And if you look at the free agents that they're expecting to let walk if they don't re-sign him, I mean, Daniel House is their only lone free agent that doesn't have like a team or a player option on there. So he kind of gives you some minutes at the 3-4. Chris, you're looking at Duke right now, kind of the same thing. Gives you minutes at the 3 and 4 on that roster. A lot of mouths to feed, for the Cameron Crazies. But Adrian Griffin Jr. was getting a lot of buzz as a guy potentially a top 5 player pre-injury. We've seen him kind of nurse himself back along, and now he's getting more and more minutes. He's looking a lot better the more minutes that he plays. The efficiency has ticked up as of late as well. So what do you think about the Houston Rockets getting your boy Adrian Griffin Jr.?
I mean, he's definitely, like I said, the minutes are getting up there, and he seems to be more confident, getting healthier. Whoever the coach of the Houston Rockets is next year, I mean, they might, they're going to need some more hair because they're going to be pulling the hair a lot because a lot of ISO guys on that team. So, and then you add AJ, another guy who likes to, like the ISO a lot. And
he does well without the ball too.
Yeah, he does do. But it's, you got a very young team. You add him, AJ Griffin's super young too. I think he's one of those. He reminds me like with the Duke situation when they had Cam Reddish, a few years back, where he was the third, coming in, he was supposed to be one of the top guys, and then kind of was playing third wing. And in college basketball, it's hard to be the third wing, because you're really not be able to showcase your whole game. Same thing with Cam Reddish, right? We knew Cam Reddish had way more in his bag than what we saw at Duke, and we're kind of seeing it when he's healthy. You see the flashes of like that potential, right? And I think the same thing. Adrian Griffin's going to kill the combine and all that, and that's where he's going to shoot, and in the combine and all that. And people say, okay, all right, he's going to unlock at the next level. We're not going to be able to do it at Duke because there's just so much talent and all that, and the injuries and all that. But he's going to unlock in the combine, and people are going to be like, okay, at the next level, he can be that guy that we thought he was coming out of high school and all that. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's top 10 at all. Would not.
No, for sure. He's definitely trending that way on a lot of boards. So, Chris, you got 2 Dukies taken top 5. You're picking number 6 for a team that has a promising young Duke player, but hasn't really played that much, and that being the New Orleans Pelicans. So, Chris, you're on the clock for Zion and the Pelicans. Where are you going?
There's a few ways I could go here, but I'm going to take the best player available, and that's Jayden Ivey.
Yeah, that's smart.
Just give them a guy who could potentially be another guy. I think he could be an all-star caliber player, another sophomore that has taken a massive leap in his second year. Guy who's a great slasher, great athlete, scorer, and all that, has improved as a shooter. Has some defensive potential and all that. So you add that to New Orleans. They just need talent. You need to keep adding talent if you want to keep Zion around. Add him talent. This would be a great piece for them. I got another scoring option, for them. So I think, and he's my best player available at this point. So Jayden Ivey to me would be an absolute, you run to the podium if this is the case. You absolutely run to the podium and no hesitation, take Jayden Ivey and you'll be happy.
Yeah, and I think that I'm going to shock people with where I have him on my next iteration of Big Board on my 3.0. But Ersin, I mean, you look at how Ivey looks on a team like Purdue right now. Imagine a Zion Williamson healthy, a capable playmaking big. Jonas Valanciunas able to do a little bit offensively as well. Maybe you can imagine him running some horns action on this team as well. Playmaking running downhill with Zion. Let's not forget that Brandon Ingram is on this team as well. There's Herb Jones is another good playmaker stepping up as a rookie for that team this season. What do you think about adding Jayden Ivey to the Pelicans here?
I think the fit is absolutely there because if you look at Jayden Ivey's game, there's explosiveness, That's what you're buying with him. And I think last season, the New Orleans Pelicans, they needed defense and they needed shooting. And with Jayden Ivey, you can, contribute to their shooting part because he's going to create space for TM3, Mr. 50-40-90, because he hasn't really showcased himself because he isn't really put in the spot, And as you say, if Zion is coming back, even if he comes back, even Valanciunas is shooting threes now. So he's going to drive the ball to the lane a lot. He's going to either kick it out or going to finish it inside, because the New Orleans Pelicans, that's what they need in their backcourt, that explosiveness. I think they got the shooting with Devontae Graham. Carol Lewis Jr. isn't really, looking good in the situation right there. I think they're going to look forward, look past him, just like with Killian Hayes in Detroit, maybe as a role player, that will be his role there. But Jayden Ivey can bring the team to the next level, and that's what they need, man, because despite all these top picks, top players, they're still not even in the play-in. So, mostly because Zion is playing, but still, you don't want to rely too much on Zion. Jayden Ivey can be that next, franchise-chasing player if he can show things there, what he's showing in Purdue, because he's a top 10 pick for sure.
Yeah,
and I like the pick for the Pelicans.
I agree, and not to mention that they're probably going to be losing Tomas Satoransky as well, so another guard falling out of that roster as well, doing cap restrictions. You draft an explosive playmaker like Jayden Ivey, it makes all the sense in the world to me. All right, so I'm on the clock here, number 7 for the Indiana Pacers, a team that just, for whatever reason, can't create an identity. They can't figure it out with all the players that are on this roster. On top of all the trade concerns, I mean, TJ Warren is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Jeremy Lamb is going to be an unrestricted free agent. 2 important pieces in their rotation if they're all healthy. They got the 2 bigs with Sabonis and with Turner. They're always talking about trading Malcolm Brogdon. Karis LeVert has injury concerns. They drafted Chris Duarte, who started off really hot, but is showing that he's kind of a playmaker. I think if you're Indiana, you swing for the fences on the last guy that I think has any sort of potential to kind of be a creator for himself and others. And he's the highest guy on my board right now. That's Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. I mean, the rise that this guy has had as of late. I mean, even on my big board, my 2.0 for dumb reasons, he was 44th. On my 2.0, he was 11th. And I promise you on my 3.0, he's going to be significantly higher. A guy that just is undeniable right now. He finishes well with both hands. He's a really good defender. I think the one knock against him is he doesn't have like that Jaden Ivey he doesn't have that Jaden Ivey level of explosiveness. So there is that question as to how well he can separate at that next level. But I mean, the ball handling, the shooting, the defense, the finishing, I mean, a lot to like about the way Johnny Davis plays basketball. Chris, the Indiana Pacers adding Johnny Davis. What do you think about that?
It's a good pick. I mean, he's a scoring machine. He's an absolute scoring machine. And is a good rebounder too. So and they're kind of in a weird phase. I don't know what they're doing. They could be sellers at the deadline, or they could keep their guy. But they've definitely been a disappointment. But adding a Johnny Davis, giving him another scoring option, would be he feels like a Pacer too. So guys just feel like and he definitely fits like a Pacer too. So that'll be a great pick for them.
Yeah, for sure. So Ersin, I'll give this to you before you pick for the Portland Trailblazers. Johnny Davis in Indiana. What do you think?
I think the fit is there with Brogdon for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Johnny Davis can create his own offense, and he can take a lot of pressure off from Brogdon. What I also like about Johnny Davis is the rebounding, man. He reminded me of Westbrook with all these rebounds that he's getting.
He's averaging like 6 or 7 a game, right? He's really good rebounder.
He's just chasing those balls,
a game too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say they keep Miles Turner, who is away from the paint the whole time, and they can just do a tactic where he is, because what I also saw in transition, he can really take the rebound and create his own transition offense. I think the situation in Indiana is perfect for him because they have settled for too many mediocre players like LeVert. I mean, these guys are not going to bring you to the next level. But they have Brogdon sitting there, and he signed an extension. And he's expecting something. Mm-hmm. And they got Sabonis. I think Sabonis is, maybe 1, 2, 3-time All-Star tops, but they lack that star, And Johnny Davis is really giving signs that he can be an NBA star and scoring, maybe a scoring champion. So if you look at his production, I think it's wild, man, because the step he takes is huge compared to last year. And as you said, in your draft board, you had him at 40. I think I had him at 44 in my 2.0. But he makes me look like a fool, man, because no way he's going to be a second rounder.
Heck no, he's not going to be out of the top.
And another sophomore who took a massive leap. That's like I said, this is going to be a theme of this draft: is those sophomores who are taking massive leaps.
Yep. Yeah, he gives me so many vibes of a, albeit smaller, but still, he reminds me a lot of Brandon Roy, and I see that so much in his game. And Brandon Roy was taken a lot later than what he should have. I mean, I still think that if Johnny Davis is taken at 7th, that's going to be too low based on where I have him on my big board. So, Ersin, we're going to turn it over to you. Number 8 pick overall for the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, a team, for whatever reason, just like the Indiana Pacers, they can't figure it out. I have their sheet caught up here. They have Robert Covington, Jusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, all going to be free agents, although on Simons they do have restricted rights to where they can't go over the cap space to re-sign them. And, same thing for Covington and Nurkic, but I can't imagine all 3 of those guys getting paid. Damian Lillard, will he, won't he stay there? CJ McCollum, will he, won't he stay there? I mean, they have front office issues, and now we see them for the first time in a long time be the top 10 for a draft pick with Dame Lillard there. Which direction are you taking them? You can't fix everything on them today, right? You're only drafting for them with all the issues they have, but what direction do you go for Portland?
I think Portland needs another generational talent, just like at the Damian Lillard. But this time I'm going with Nikola Jovic, man.
Okay.
Nikola Jovic is the perfect situation for him in Portland, because either one of those two, Dame or CJ, I think it will be CJ is leaving. I think Nikola Jovic can do it all, man. He can put the ball on the floor. He's a great pick and roll ball handler. I think if you look at that team, they got Nasir Little. He can put a lot of pressure on the rim. He's a good screener. They get Anthony Simons, and as you said, they have the restriction rights, and they're probably going to re-sign him. But he's a deadly three-point shooter, man. I think they picked a lot in the late first round. They really got two great picks in Simons and Nasir Little. And Nikola Jovic can do it everything, man. He's really crafty with the ball. He can create his own offense, and I think that's the part that they really missed because it was mostly Dame doing all the magic. CJ, if he was hot, he was going hot, because if you look at the team, this was their ceiling all the time. All these 4 or 5 years, I think the conference finals was their ceiling. And they weren't built for the championship because Dame needs help. And I think with Nikola Jovic, I think that organization is kind of a mess with the GM now gone and a lot of players potentially leaving. So they need a refreshing new guy that can take their time with and potentially rebuild around. I think Nikola Jovic is a generational talent. I have him at number 3 on my big board. He will be at number 3 in my 3.0 again. And that's the guy that that they need to build around on the long term. And I think if you can put him next to Lillard, because Nikola Jovic, he's great off ball as well. I think the defense is the main problem with him. That's the worrying part. But I think that's the part where I struggle the most is that how tough is the defense in the league that he's playing with. I think if you put him in college, his production is going to be a lot better. But he's playing against professionals, who understand the game. Some of them have some NBA experience. I think that if you look at the coaching staff, the club is one of the biggest agents in Europe. Krasnatovic, and I think these guys, they really invest in those guys to potentially, because they know how the NBA works, and he's a lottery pick for a reason. I think Nikola Jovic is really a generational talent, and in 2022, this year, his draft stock will only be increasing, because you don't hear a lot in the film recently.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I have him lower on my board. I believe I have him 16th currently. Last time I played with my board, but there are a lot of things to like about him. And Chris, we spoke about him, I believe, twice now on shows when we did our first roundup of international players. He was your favorite international guy. He was my second favorite, so that means I hate his guts, right? Because I had one guy ranked above him. But we talked about him also with Tyler Rucker of the No Ceilings team, and he's a big Jovic guy too. And he's playing well. And I see a lot of people on Twitter saying, like, really, what's the difference between him and Patrick Baldwin Jr. as far as measurables and skill set? He's also being more efficient in a pretty strong league right now, right? So I understand the case. I'm personally not there, but I respect it. And you did do a really good job, in my opinion, Ersin, of painting a picture of why Jovic to Portland would be a really good thing, because who plays defense in Portland anyway, right? So, Chris, what do you think about Jovic going here at 8th overall to Portland?
I'm like I said, I like Jovic a lot, so this would be great. I think they're gonna make major shakeups this year. I think Dame will be gone. I think CJ potentially could be gone. So you got to start the rebound. I think they bring back Anthony Simons as that replacement, and because to me, he's a guy that's once he's able to get the reins, get the keys to the car, I think he's gonna take off. I've been behind him since he was an IMG. Kid's going to be good once he's able to fully unlock. So I'm big. I think they bring him back at I think he's restricted, right? So yeah, I think he's going to get a nice little deal. Like I said, I think Dame and CJ, I think eventually get moved and they go through that rebuild. And then you add Jovic to that. That's some good young pieces they would have to start for this rebuild, because they have to do the rebuild. They are not playing good basketball right now. Like Ersin said, they capped out when they went to the conference finals. I think that was their ceiling. It was that conference finals, and I know it was against the Warriors, and it's hard to beat the Warriors, especially that KD and all that. But it seems like that's always been as far as they're going to get, and it just doesn't make sense to run it back again and go through the same stuff. So I think I see some massive moves being made. And I think if you add Jovic to, I think with a potential with Anthony Simons, there's some good young pieces they can build around. I mean, it's going to be some rough years, and we'll probably be talking about them, being top, one of the top teams for the 2023 draft. which has some good guys in that class too.
Jovic and Wembanyama together. I mean, you could be. Yeah, it might be.
They could figure this out quicker than most teams would. But Jovic, he does everything you want. Sneaky good athlete. Great playmaker, great in open space, great transition, everything. Just keeps improving, and so I wouldn't be top 10 to me. I have him as a lottery pick, top 10 pick, so I'm not mad at this at all.
Right on. A sneaky good athlete for all you listeners out there just means that he's white. All right, so Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I try to be nice.
I understand. We got to be PC here on the show. So you're picking for a team that, for whatever reason, also cannot just get it together no matter what they're doing. They have two really good guards in De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, and reports are that they're willing to part ways with both of them for some crazy reason. Your boy Marvin Bagley III is going to be a restricted free agent at the end of this year. #free Bagley. They got some pieces that they could be moving for whatever reason. Buddy Hield is always the guy that doesn't want to be on this team, but he's the one guy they want to keep. I don't understand that at all. So help me to make sense of this team with the 9th pick overall. Sacramento Kings, you are selecting.
This team's just weird. I don't get this team at all. I've never got this team. Obviously, they're pretty good at the guard position, even though I think in order for Halliburton to unlock, I think you got to get rid of Fox, who's probably give you the most assets, right? Who has the most trade value.
You got Davion Mitchell there behind him.
You got Davion, you got Davion there who can, I don't think he's a pure point guard, but he could be like that Marcus Smart type player.
Also Halliburton.
Yeah. And because to me, if you want Hallie to take off, you got to figure out something because he's a point guard. You need to give him the ball in his hands because he can do some special things with the ball in his hand. And I think he could be, a very, very good point guard in this league, but you got to give him the reins. So there's a few ways you can go here. They do need some wings, but I'm going to give him Patrick Baldwin Jr.
Okay.
And I know people are souring on Patrick Baldwin Jr. And I get it, right? His numbers are down, but I feel like you just can't look at the numbers. You have to look at the surrounding. He ain't playing he's playing with us. He's playing with us too.
I mean, a little better than us.
A little bit better, maybe a little bit better.
They're not that bad.
But like just to prove like he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. Like they're getting constantly just destroyed, routinely. And I know his last few games he's, I think 5 points, 2 points. He just hasn't been great. But I buy him at the next level when he's playing with actual, guys who could give him the ball. Him and Halliburton was going to be able to find him, off screens and all that. And he's a great movement shooter. It's like a Michael Porter kind of in a way. It's kind of person he's been kind of comped to a lot. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot. I think he could be a more efficient shooter than Michael Porter. So I still buy him as a top 10 pick. I still think he's that type of talent. And I think he's another guy, one of those guys, bad situation at the next level, going to be playing with a lot better players, especially in Sacramento. You got Hallie. If you still got Fox, got Davion who will be able to give him the ball and all that. And, so I think Patrick Baldwin Jr. is the pick here. I don't know if they're going to keep Harrison Barnes there and all that. Obviously, Bagley's probably gone. So there'll be opportunities to play for him and contribute right away. So I think this would be a good fit for him.
All right, so Ersin, the team that has issues picking the player that probably has the most amount of issues in college basketball right now, being Patrick Baldwin Jr., slipping a little bit, I think, from what preseason expectations were, still landing in the top 10. I wasn't going to let him fall past the 10th spot personally, because I think with, what we've seen him do before in U19 basketball, I mean, his measurables, I mean, you're talking about a guy who might be knocking on the door of being 6 feet tall with that sort of a jump shot, that sort of a handle. I mean, college basketball isn't for everybody, Chris. I mean, we've seen this with guys before like Cole Anthony, Zaire Williams, a whole, Jaden McDaniels out of Washington as well, who plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who's going to be picking here soon. Ersin, what do you think? Is this a good pick to you? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I love it for Sacramento, but I hate it for Patrick Baldwin Jr., man. Because
you're gonna hate
want to
it.
be drafted by the Kings,
For who?
So.
I hate it for anyone who has to go to Sacramento, but
yeah, for sure.
they got to pick someone. Someone's got to go to Sacramento.
Someone has to go there.
I think if you look at this game, he's obviously a top. I think I was between him and Jovic for Portland.
Sure.
The reason I went for Jovic is I see the more clear upside for Jovic on the long term. His offensive versatility, I think, is a little bit better than Patrick Baldwin Jr. Because as you said, I think that the shooting stroke and that guy, you can't teach those things. You can't teach him, but not as good as he does. And I think the problems that he has in Milwaukee is a trash team coached by his father. And I've heard that, the teammates aren't really keen in passing him the ball too much. He's put in a lot of tough situations, such as, with the clock winding down 3 seconds, 2 seconds. They pass it to him and they help him make it. And if you look at the numbers, they're horrible, but, they don't tell the whole story, man. Because if you look at his talent, he's a top 5 talent for sure. And I think if he went to perhaps a top-tier program, I think we would put him in a conversation to go number 1. I'm really sure because Patrick Baldwin Jr., I think the upside is clearly there, but he has some issues, man, because Sacramento is buying really low on such a high talent. They hit a home run pick. But, everyone that's get drafted by Sacramento, you got to be lucky, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope he will be okay there.
I mean, it looks like he and Buddy Hield are going to be the 1 and the 2 option in Sacramento. So we'll pray for our guy.
Yeah, they got Buddy Hield too. Yeah. But that's another piece they could probably trade. That could be.
I mean, he's the only one that it looks like they want to hang on to for some crazy reason, and he's the only one that's like, I don't want to be here. So Sacramento is a weird spot, man. It's a weird spot. So, all right, now I'm picking for the Atlanta Hawks. Speaking of a weird spot, I didn't think that they were still going to be here by the time our 2.0 came around. And this is a tough team to pick for because it's not like they don't have talent, right? So it's not like you're picking a replacement player here for a lot of positions. I think that I could maybe, if you try to save them a little money and draft a center here, but I'm not going to do that because I like Clint Capella and they got Onyeka Okongwu waiting in the wings behind them. They're looking to trade Cam Reddish and Danilo Gallinari, but they got guys like Jalen Johnson and, Kevin Huerter waiting behind him. And Huerter is going to be a restricted free agent. You look at some of the other positions that they're going to be losing, DeLon Wright and Lou Williams. I'm going to be drafting depth for them. And I don't think that this guy is a bad player to draft depth. He's fallen out of favor for people lately, but I think Jayden Hardy going to Atlanta would be a really good pick. He's a guy who's falling down draft boards a lot. I'm still going to remain high on him. He's had games, especially here lately, where he's hit like 4 of 6 threes, things like that. And from everything that I've heard about the way that the G League is wanting to use him, and maybe the G League needs to kind of revamp their model a little bit here, but they're putting him in situations where he's going to be uncomfortable. He looks uncomfortable, but he does have flashes where off the ball, he looks like he can play really well. I think there could be a lot of times where you see him and Trae Young, where he's standing outside. He is a good 3-point shooter. It's the things that we question about him, about the athleticism and about the handle, perhaps maybe even a little bit of the defense. I think a lot of those things are negated on a team like Atlanta, who has depth, has good quality starters around him. He can kind of find his way into a role. I think that would favor his abilities a little bit more. I'm still not going to give up on Hardy as of yet. He's still within my top 10 on my big board. He was actually the last guy that we've named here other than one more guy who was still on my big board. I considered going another route with a wing. I still think that they got, wings coming out of their nose right now with all the depth and the talent they have. But, Ersin, I'll ask you, Jayden Hardy, what do you think about him being an Atlanta Hawk?
As you said, man, another player that's in a tough situation. They put the ball in his hands too much, as the primary ball handler. I think that's not his game. His explosiveness, his rim pressure, that's what his value is, And what I like the most about him, and I think that's the part that really made him a generational talent in the sense that he was going top 5 in almost every board before the season started. The amount that he adjusts his pace, while driving, can adjust his pace very well. Adjust his speed. He can, accelerate and stop. He can create his own jumper. The shots aren't falling yet, but I think you don't have to be too hard on him because he plays in the G League against professionals. And if you play him in college, maybe the competition is different, in non-conference play. So I think people are really hard on Jayden Hardy. The numbers aren't looking good, but it's not worrying me because the talent is obviously there. An explosive guy like that, who the game's obviously slow for him. He can adjust his speed while driving to the bucket. And that's what Atlanta needs right now. Trey can really use a partner like him that can take away, without Trey having too much, needing to go too much to the rim too much, because he needs help at the two spot. And as you say, Jayden Hardy can grow into a role. He can go to a winning team because their team is obviously maybe top 3, top 4 in the East. They aren't playing like it, but on paper they're very good. So I think Jayden Hardy to Atlanta Hawks. I like for Hardy this team a lot, because they're obviously got a lot of young talent. They're going to payday, Hunter, Reddish, who they're going to keep. And he's 6'5", he can maybe find himself at the 3 spot because I think his physicality, he can hold his ground against one of the quicker guys and quicker wings and maybe of the more physical wings.
No, and that's fair, a fair assessment. I didn't consider him in 3-guard rotations, but yeah, that's another thing depending on who else they have on that roster. Maybe Sharif Cooper makes an appearance in some playing time. Who knows? But Chris, before I give it to Ersin to pick for the Minnesota Timberwolves, what do you think about the Atlanta Hawks picking Jayden Hardy here?
I mean, they're in a weird situation because it's kind of crazy to think that they would be in the top 10, but as of now, they would be. And they have so much talent, but they can't figure it out. They figure it out. And I think they're one of those teams that are going to try to make a big move in the offseason because they have to do something in order to take that next step because they were in the conference finals last year, right? And some injuries, if Trey's healthy, maybe they're in the finals. They could easily have been in the finals if Trey was it was healthier, right? And they had Cam Reddish and all that. So, adding Jayden Hardy would be a good fit because he is kind of what they need, another scoring option for Trey. Playing a little bit off the ball and all that because, like I said, him having the ball so much in the G League, playing against grown men, remember, playing against pros, kind of getting a little uncomfortable. So maybe that his better fit is playing more off the ball. You have Trey, who can is a great playmaker and all that. Put Jayden in some good positions and all that. So if he's at 10, I mean, Atlanta has found a lot of good guys that are not, high picks, right? Last year we felt like they did good with again Jalen Johnson and Sharif Cooper, who dropped in the second round. They've always it's always crazy. They always seem like they find guys outside that top 10 out of that lottery and have been really good players for them. And it's just a matter of now they just got to figure out do they have to make a big massive move to take that next because they have so many good pieces. So I think that's something they'll definitely consider. But if they get Jayden here, this is like another time you just run to the board and then they run to the podium. You take him because you just keep adding talent, and he's a heck of a talent. Like I said, he's getting scrutinized because he is playing against pros, and like I said, we're going to see that. We see that a lot of overseas guys, seeing a lot of G League guys that are just getting nitpicked because they're playing against high competition, but they're young still. They're young, so we got to put that in perspective too.
Very much so. All right, guys. So we're getting up against it here for the time on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. We're going to separate here. For those who want to listen the rest of the top, the first round here, we only got through 10 picks. There's 20 more. And we're going to kind of pick up the time a little bit as we go along. We just wanted to spend a little bit of time on some of these guys here on the radio segment. On the podcast, we won't go as long on our analysis, so to speak here. But so we'll close out here for the channel. Just a couple of notable players that haven't been selected yet. Kendall Brown, Jalen Duren, and Kennedy Chandler, I think, are on a lot of people's kind of top. Also, Keegan Murray, people who are getting top 10 consideration. Maybe even Torrey Eason, if you like him as much as I do. None of those guys have been picked yet. We still got 20 teams to pick. But before we continue, we'll sign off here for the radio segment. If you want to listen to the other 20 draft picks that are going to happen, go anywhere that you find your podcast, look up Draft Capital. You'll see a cool little white building with some orange banners and a basketball. You'll see Chris and mine's name under there. And go subscribe, 5 stars, whether it's on Apple or Spotify now has implemented a 5-star rating system. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review, all that fun stuff. But before we close out, Ersin would love to let you, have the floor to tell the people here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio where they can find you and your work.
You can find me on Twitter at eDemirNBA. I tweet mostly about the NBA draft. I do a lot of NBA things as well. Write about prospects. I do some in-depth stats regarding the NBA. I try to, put more attention on the teams as well. So it's 99% basketball on my account. So if you're into the NBA draft or NBA, give me a follow, man.
Yeah, and it's worth a follow. And Chris, we got a whole bunch of stuff for the network coming up soon. Draft Capital NFL has kicked off. So if you're a big fan of that, go and look up Draft Capital NFL on social media. That podcast is also out there available as well. But Chris, let's let the people know where they can find you too, bro.
Yeah, you can find me at Off the Ball Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Haven't done a show, my show on Off the Ball in a few weeks. Like I said, was down with the vid, but gonna start ramping back. So just follow me on Off the Ball, and I'll post when I'll have my next show up. So, but like I said, this continue to listen to Draft Capital. Like I said, we just launched Draft Capital NFL on Off the Ball Network. So a lot of good content on Off the Ball Network. We got a Substack. We just switched over to Substack, so make sure to follow that. I'll be posting my big board on Substack very soon. So like I said, just follow me at Off the Ball Pod for all the details I got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen G. Hoops. Go to offtheballnetwork.substack.com for all of your sports needs. And again, Breaking the Game is my NFL podcast that me and buddy Kenneth Cotterill of the Off the Ball Network, we co-host. And again, just all the love that we have gotten from Draft Capital and blown away by it. We're also going to have CJ Margisani of the Step In and of Roll Call Sports coming on very soon to talk about some really cool prospects. Can't wait to dive into that one. But for the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, this has been Draft Capital. We'll catch up with y'all next time. So love everybody. All right, so continuing on with podcasts here. If you're coming over from the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, thank you so much for checking out Draft Capital. Again, want to remind you all that this podcast is only successful as you make it. So give us a 5-star rating, give us a review, like, share, subscribe, with all that fun stuff. So we made it through the top 10, guys. I'll just recap it here, and we'll kind of get into the other 20 teams, a little bit of lightning round fashion. Number 1 for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I took Jabari Smith Jr. Number 2 for the Detroit Pistons, Ersin took Paolo Banchero. Number 3 for the San Antonio Spurs, Chris, you took Chet Holmgren. Number 4 for the Orlando Magic, I took Benedict Matheran. Number 5 for the Houston Rockets, Ersin, you took Adrian Griffin Jr. Number 6 for the Pelicans, Chris, you took Jaden Ivey. I took Johnny Davis for the Pacers at 7. Ersin took Nikola Jovic at 8 for the Portland Trailblazers. The Sacramento Kings, Chris, you took Patrick Baldwin Jr. number 9. And to wrap up our top 10, I took Jayden Hardy for the Atlanta Hawks at number 10. So with the 11th pick of the Mock Draft 2.0, Ersin, you are on the clock for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Which direction are you going for the Timberwolves?
I was in between two guys for the Timberwolves, but I'm going for the complementary piece for the Timberwolves to adjust more around Anthony Edwards, their superstar. I'm going with Dyson Daniels for the G League Ignite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think Dyson Daniels is exceptionally well as a secondary ball handler, man. I think the defense on that guy, high basketball IQ, he's a pure fundamental guy to have on your team, He's great off the pick and roll, in the pick and roll offense. He can play great off the ball. He can create space for other players. I think they're both really great defenders. Anthony Edwards is a great defender, and so is Dyson Daniels. And I think if you put Dyson Daniels at the 2, maybe Edwards at the 3, or, can play with the rotations that Edwards plays at 2 and Dyson Daniels as the 1, you have a potential two-way, backcourt in the sense that, defensively those guys will handle the ground, I think Anthony Edwards is the scorer. Dyson Daniels is more the facilitator, more the complementary piece completing the team. The Timberwolves, they're in a tough spot. They're probably going to keep Towns. Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar in this league. Mm-hmm. But I'm not really sure what D'Angelo Russell is going to offer for them. So I think picking a guy like Dyson Daniels can put Anthony Edwards, make him more the face of the team, together with Towns. And the fit is perfect here. You're not going to get another, ball dominant guy into Minnesota with those two guys there.
And that makes a lot of sense. I love the pick. So, Chris, your beloved New York basketball, the Knicks are on the clock here. Which way are you going to take your beloved franchise, brother? Who's going to be the pick?
All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna
Let's
take a
do it.
point guard finally.
Oh, here
And
we
this is gonna
go.
be the face of the franchise. This is gonna be the point guard they have finally needed for so long, so long. I'm taking Ty Washington. That's
Wow.
the pick.
Okay.
Going to take Ty. He has played some great basketball of late.
I'll say.
Please stop talking about the Duke game, please. Like, okay, he had a bad game. All right, it was the first game of the season.
This is coming from a Duke fan, by the way. So
Yeah.
just to let you know how much Chris really means that.
It's every time someone talks about it, it's like, well, the Duke game, and it's like, dude, that was the first game of his, college season. It's, at the Garden. There's a lot to go. He didn't play great, but he still showed flashes. To me, this is, has everything you want in a point guard. To me, potential 3-level type player, playmaking potential. To me, if you're the Knicks, you're at 12. This is the pick. There's some other options that are still available here that you could take. Maybe take a wing. Keegan Murray or even Jalen Durant are still on the board. But to me, you gotta get this point guard. They are, I think, bottom 3 in assists per game, pace of play. He's going to help that tremendously. Enough with the stop gaps at the point guard position, and then trying to get that last little juice out of these older point. Just get your guy Ty. You got Deuce McBride also too that you could help, and that'd be a nice Emmanuel quickly also nice little trio at the guard position that you can have for. So to me, Ty Washington, and the defense too, potentially on defense is an added bonus with Ty. To me, that's exactly what they need. Guys, crafty and all that, everything you want. Boom. To me, that'll be my love. I've been wanting a point guard for this team for God knows how long. They don't listen. They never listen. I think this is the year they finally listen to me. Kentucky guy too. They love taking Kentucky guys too. So
You got your CAA connection there.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Maybe they finally do it. So to me, Ty Washington is the pick for the Knicks.
All right, that's fair. So rolling on, I'm going to keep the point guard vibes going for the 13th pick for the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go Kennedy Chandler. Yes, I know that he's only 6'1". Yes, I know he had some games where he struggled with teams with good length. I'm looking at Texas Tech and Arizona. I still think that he is a very good player, and on a team with the Boston Celtics that have guys that like to have their ball in their hands too. It's not like Kennedy Chandler is going to go out there and have like a 40% usage rate with the ball in his hands. He's also a very good 3-point shooter, around 38% shooting from deep. One of the best playmakers in the class, very good athlete too, a very capable defender, something that, if you need 3-point shooting, you need passing, you need defense like this Boston Celtics team does. It makes all the sense in the world, in my opinion, that you would want to add a Kennedy Chandler who can steal the ball, who has shown the ability to get up and challenge shots at the rim. Again, with the ability to pass and play make and also play off of the ball as well. Not a very selfish player, even at Tennessee, where he is the best prospect. He is not a very selfish player, but shows that he does have good leadership qualities as well. So I am going to rock with Kennedy Chandler. So Ersin, there's a couple prospects that I am shocked are still available this late, but does this feel any different than any other NBA draft where we're just like, how do you have these guys here available? I have 2 notable ones on my board. I'm curious to see if you snatch up one of them, and I think people would go absolutely nuts if one of them got drafted here. But Ersin, you're on the clock, 14th pick, closing out the lottery for the Toronto Raptors. Who do you got?
I got Usman Jang from the New Zealand Breakers. I mean, Usman Jang, that's what the Toronto Raptors need. 6'8", he got a 7-foot wingspan, man. This is absolutely crazy. He's a great ball handler. He can create his own offense. I like his mid-range game the most. But he's very, very raw. I think the Toronto Raptors are looking for a guy they can slowly develop. They got OG Anunoby late in the first round. They took 2-3 years with him, and look what he's become. I think Usman Jang is going to be an all-star for sure in the NBA. I think he will not be, in a Hall of Fame, in Hall of Fame level, but he's going to be in an all-star level. But he's going to take some time. I think that guy is really underrated because mostly he's not playing well with the New Zealand Breakers.
I mean,
but there are a lot of off-the-ball issues.
That's a big challenge for me. That's a big challenge for me, Ersin, is that he's not playing well. So, I mean, you can fall in love with the size and stuff like that. And we all know that Toronto loves the size. Just me personally, I struggle with seeing him taking that high. But I love the fact that you're not sold out on him because it just shows
No,
that
for sure. I think
there's a
there's
lot of
more
people
off the court issues.
there's still a lot of
Yeah.
people. I was listening to Chad Ford, and he still has a first round grade on him as well. So I don't see it, but hey, I've been wrong before, man. But I love the Ousmane Dieng pick here for the Toronto Raptors. Chris, the 15th pick in the draft. The Charlotte Hornets are on the clock. You got playmaking, you got at the rim finishing. What direction are you going with this team?
I know they took who's the big man they took from Texas last year?
Oh, Kai Jones.
But I'm gonna give him Jalen Durant. I can't have him fall any farther than this. Got to give him Jalen Durant. I mean, if he falls this far, it would be really shocking. But just the way that the teams we have, and just didn't see a lot of fits with him. But to me, you have Kai Jones and you have Jalen Durant and you got LaMelo Ball handling the ball.
Mm-hmm.
This team is very scary. They're definitely going to re-sign Bridges. So they're gonna bring back that core, and you add two big men like that, Kai Jones, who's a freak athlete, and you add Jalen Durant, who's a freak athlete. Oh my goodness, LaMelo might lead the league in
they need a center, man. They need a pick and roll man. I think this big.
Yep, and that's exactly what you give him. You don't have to ask him to do too much. Everyone wants him to be this. He can't shoot, he can't do anything else. Well, he doesn't need to do that because all he's going to do is rim run and just catch lobs from LaMelo Ball, and he'll be fine. Just grab everything around the rim. And he can make an instant impact right away. And him and Kai Jones could be a formidable 1-2, big man punch that not a lot of teams have. So to me,
they got JT Thor too. I mean,
JT Thor's another unicorn type player from last draft. So that has a huge upside. I mean, LaMelo's just going to be lobbing, and he got Bridges. He's going to be throwing up in the air, and just these guys who have 19-foot wingspans is going to grab it and just yam it on people. So to me, Jalen Durant, give him to Charlotte, and they'll be a lot of fun next year.
No, for sure, and that's a scary sight to imagine some pick and roll sets between Ball and Durant here. So
and he got a little playmaking in him.
Trust me. Trust me. I've been watching me some Durant, and I've been sharing the playmaking chops. I mean, there's a lot to love about Durant going to this team. But all right, so with the 16th pick here, the Oklahoma City Thunder are on the clock. I'm picking for them. I already took Jabari Smith Jr. number 1, and I think Oklahoma City fans, just draft Twitter at large, would go nuts if they walked away with Jabari Smith Jr. and then also Kendall Brown out of Baylor coming to this team is who I'm going to go with. I mean, one of the top athletes in the entire draft, one of the best defenders in the entire draft. He's not a volume shooter, but he has shown that the 3-point shooting is somewhat reliable. Doesn't have to be a guy with the ball in his hand on this team with guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, and Trey Mann as well. He just has to do on this team what he already does for Baylor, and that's just run nonstop and play incredible defense and have cool hair. I mean, Oklahoma City might have the coolest hair on their entire starting five when you look at Giddey and you look at Kendall Brown too. I mean, if you can rock a closing five of sorts of just fun talent with Pokashevsky, with Jabari Smith, with Kendall Brown, with Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that might be the G League pass team of the year. So I am going to rock with Kendall Brown here. 16. Ersin, you are picking for the Memphis Grizzlies at the 17th pick overall. And again, there's still some really good talent left here, so I'm curious to see which way you go for them.
Oh, man, you guys took the two guys I was saving for Memphis, man, because I'm going to adjust. The guy I'm going to take is another Baylor guy, Jeremy Sochan from Baylor.
Okay.
For the Memphis. I think defensively he's going to bring a lot to that team. I think John Morant defensively is still a question mark, and he fits completely well, on that team. He can stretch the floor a lot. I think with guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, especially Desmond Bane, has really evolved as a great shooter, man, this season. I think they need a complementary piece to that roster to bring to the next level. Jeremy Sochan from Baylor.
I love that pick, man. I mean, There's another 4 on this on here who's still available that I would have gone with personally, but I love the idea of Jeremy Sohan on that team too, who also had cool hair but just cut it recently, so he fell down my board specifically due to the haircut. All right, Chris, so you're picking for the Washington Wizards, who started the season off hot, have cooled down a little bit, but they're still outside the lottery, so still have high hopes for this team. 18th pick overall for the Wizards. Which way you going?
I'm going to give them Hugo Besson.
Oh, no.
Going to give him Hugo. Having a great season so far. Playmaking point guard. That's kind of what they need. They need another guy who can handle the ball consistently. Can't have Bradley Beal and just handle the ball. So get someone who's a pure point. And I think Hugo will be great in that system. So I'm going to go Hugo.
Okay, that's fair. And I mean, keep that international flavor going with him. Obviously, Luka and KP on that team as well. So I'm sorry, that was for Washington.
Yeah.
Yep. I was going to take him for Dallas. That's why I got ahead of myself there. I'm on the clock for Dallas, and I'm going to go with best player available on my board, Tari Eason. An incredible defender, a great finisher. Super strong. He's going to help make that defense look better. He can give you minutes, I believe, at the 4 and the 5. Playmaking potential is there as well. I'm not going to be asked to do a whole heck of a lot of it on this team, who they have to re-sign Jalen Brunson, so hopefully they can do that. And obviously Luka's going to want the ball in his hand.
They better do it. They cannot lose Jalen Brunson. They cannot afford to lose him.
The only thing that I think might not work for Tari Eason in Dallas is that he's not a fantastic shooter, but I think that's going to be one of the skill sets that he can improve over time, because I mean, it's just getting in the gym and shooting, right? So hopefully he can clean up that shot. But again, he's not going to be asked to do that much of it. And I think that he can play off of Luka and Kendrick Perkins. Wow. Kristaps Porzingis.
I don't think anyone's ever played off Kendrick Perkins in any level of basketball. He may think people played off of him, but
what was that video he posted a couple, last season with him still dribbling? He still has the handles and all that fun stuff. So, So for the Dallas Mavericks, Tari Eason. All right. So Ersin, for the Denver Nuggets, then this is a fun team to draft for right now. I mean, you consider all the injuries that they have. We may never see Michael Porter Jr. again, as sad as that might be able to say. But you still have potential MVP candidate on this team. Who are you getting to help out Nikola Jokic?
Actually, as you said, man, I was anticipating for Michael Porter Jr. not playing that much anymore, but they need a scorer on the wing and maybe a 2 spot. I'm going with Marshall Beauchamp from the Ignite.
Okay,
like him a lot.
He's a great player, man. I think Jokic with Beauchamp putting him on the spot, he's a very, very efficient finisher from inside. I think that's what the Nuggets need. I think Jokic with on top of the key with all the passes that he's throwing around. So, Marshall Beauchamp is going to produce a lot of numbers on that team.
Yeah, to me, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's not a lot to argue with there. He was one of the most reliable players for this team early, and it's still shown to be a steady hand so far. All right, so Chris, you're picking for probably the team that everybody loves the most right now. Like if you have a favorite team, this is your second favorite team right now. 21 overall, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They already had Evan Mobley, who has just been a star this season. Darius Garland has stepped up. Colin Sexton hasn't even played that much. Jared Allen, that contract, what contract, right? And then Lauri Markkanen is showing out on this team as well. Ricky Rubio's hurt. They just added Rajon Rondo. I mean, they have Isaac Okoro. They still have Chetty Osman as well. Who are you getting for the Cleveland Cavaliers here, 21st overall? Also, Kevin Love. Shout out to Kevin Love.
Kevin Love, yeah. Kevin Love actually, playing good basketball, right? He's actually into it.
Just playing basketball at all,
Just playing basketball, period. I'm going to go Keegan Murray here.
Okay.
I'm going to go Keegan Murray here. Gives them he is a smooth wing, can do a lot of good things. They need a wing. They have they're good at the guard position, especially when they get if Colin Sexton back next season and all that. They're good at the big man position. They got a future all-star in Mobley, and they might get one this year in Jared Allen. It's just crazy how good they have been. And they still got Isaac Okoro. They still got some guys who are still there that are the good pieces on this team. You add Keegan Murray to the, that could shoot the ball well, score a little bit. I like Keegan a lot. I think that would be a great pick spot for him to go to add to that continuing building team. And so Keegan Murray to me, 6'8", everything you want. I think he'd be perfect there.
Yeah, I think that he would have been perfect at the team that I was going to be picking for, the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm just saying, but there are things to like about his fit there with Mobley too. I mean, that could be a funky lineup and just gives them even more height to a team that already has it. But
yeah, 7-foot wingspan too. Like he's they have some length there, and I can't believe the Cleveland Cavaliers, they finally figured it out without LeBron there.
LeBron,
it's easy to do it when you got LeBron James and you can add already Kyrie and Kevin Love, but to finally figure it out without LeBron or Kyrie or whoever, you still got Kevin Love, but to figure it out, good for them.
The Los Angeles Lakers would beg to differ. But anyway, the Philadelphia 76ers are on the clock here, 22nd pick. Probably think that, probably we're hoping to have a little bit higher of a pick. But with this one, there's a lot of different ways that you could go. Philadelphia is a team. They don't have Ben Simmons. They don't have anybody that they've traded yet for Ben Simmons. I'm going to give them a guy that is ready to contribute day one, and Ochai Agbaji, another Kansas alumni to go along with Joel Embiid. Microwave scorer, just a dude that can light it up from deep, has a little bit of a handle, gives you positional versatility. Defense, so, but it's not that bad. And with Joel Embiid kind of cleaning up your messes behind you, I think that you can live a little bit with the mistakes there. He's a little bit lower on my board. Than
this is the first senior? Is it the first senior?
Yeah, first senior. Ochai Agbaji, first senior off the board. And he's a super senior at that. He's only 21, even though he's a senior. There are juniors like the aforementioned Keegan Murray, who's a little bit.
They're probably 21.
who knows at this point, right? But I'm going to take the super senior, probably a player of the year candidate in college basketball. He's got a teammate that I would like to see go in the first round as well, but we'll see how that shakes out. But Ochai Agbaji, I think that he fits this team and this roster. Day one can come in and contribute if they need him to, and that sucks because they also have Isaiah Joe, who's Arkansas, and we all know that I have ties to Joe there. But I think Agbaji fits this team really well. All right, so Ersin, you're picking for the Houston Rockets again. So you already taken, who did you get here? Adrian Griffin Jr. for him the first time. Who's teaming up with him in H-Town?
People are going to think I'm a Duke fan, man, because he's the third guy from Duke I'm going to take. I'm going to take Mark Williams.
Okay.
I think the Houston Rockets need a rim protector. I think Christian Wood isn't offering that. Alperen Şengün isn't really offering that either. I think if I'm the Houston Rockets, I'm going for an old school rim protector, and nothing in my house type of guy, Mark Williams to the Houston Rockets. I see perfect fit there.
That's not a bad way to go. It's interesting because there is like a whole grouping of center after Jalen Duran that it's just kind of like, who do you like more? And people are still higher on Mark Williams than some of the other guys. So that's interesting to see that that's where your mind's at right now, Ersin. So, Chris, we're going to be picking, or when I say we, I mean you're going to be picking for the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, who were in the lottery on our 1.0. Now they're picking 24th on our 2.0. So they have figured some things out. What direction are you going to go, and who is going to help fill out this roster?
Oh, okay. There's a few ways to go, but I'm going to give him J.D. Davidson. Athletic, an athletic guard. They need some athleticism at that position. Potentially could be a lead guard down the line. They don't really have that right now. So to me, they take a chance. I mean, I was thinking maybe Montero, but I don't know if he would fit, their win now mentality right now. I think J.D. Davidson has played good at Bama, showed like great athleticism. All that. I think he could play right away more than Montero can. Montero is still hard to figure out because he's playing against babies and all that. So and in the Loon League, so trying to figure it out. But I'm gonna go J.D. Davidson. Athletic ability, he's improved at every facet of his game. So to me, I'm gonna go J.D. Davidson.
Okay, that's fair. That'll be interesting to see if people are still that high on him. We all know that he's recently had a string of bad games, but what player hasn't in this draft? It's just about who's hitting when draft time actually happens, and Alabama has a way of figuring it out with their guards here. So
you got a lot of good guards, Bama.
They have a lot of good guards, and Herb Jones was the second-round draft pick guy, and a lot of people were a little bit lower on him. Look at him in New Orleans now. So you never know what's going to happen. But now with the Memphis Grizzlies here, Ersin, you helped me out earlier drafting for this team. You took Jeremy Sohan, which is fine. I'm going to try to keep this string of good draft picks going, and I'm going to give them a guy who should replace decently the guy that is going to be a free agent this year if they don't bring him back. He's kind of has the template already laid out in front of him on this team. I'm going to give him Harrison Ingram out of Stanford. You know, he's not an explosive athlete. He's a good playmaker, though. He's a good three-point shooter, something that Kyle Anderson really isn't that great of a shooter. Good playmaker, rebounder, decision maker, still low to the ground game. Not going to be asked to do a whole lot. I think that he could fit this Memphis team really well. Just another smart guy, another guy who can pass, who can shoot, and his defense is not
perfect Grizzly. He's literally the perfect Grizzly.
He's the perfect Grizzly in my eyes too, man. So I'm going to go ahead and Harrison Ingram. He's not the highest guy that I have left on my board, but I'm thinking of fit and I'm thinking of team need. And Memphis Grizzlies get Harrison Ingram.
He's very Bainey. He's very Bainey, so that's perfect. He's very, very, very Desmond Bainey. So to me,
except he's 18 years old right now.
Except
so
he's 18 years old.
There's that. So he has time to grow on this team as well. So Ersin, we got to do our boy Mo Murphy, the Up in Flame show proud. You're going to be picking 26th overall for the Miami Heat. Which direction are you going to go?
I was between two guys for the Miami Heat, but I've made a decision. I'll go with Yannick and Sosa. Yannick Sosa for the Miami Heat. I think Yannick Sosa is the perfect Miami Heat guy. I think he's defensively, I think he's the best prospect out there amongst the big men defensively. But the offense is there yet. And the Miami Heat, they don't have a lot of depth at the center position. They have Dedmon, free agent, he's gone. PJ Tucker is even playing at the center position in a small ball. He's I think he's on a player option. They get Yurtseven, my countryman, but he is, if you look at this, I think he's a third-tier center, but I think Yannick is also the guy that they can slowly bring, he's a great pick-and-roll defender, a great defender at the rim. Great at the perimeter, I think, defense. He's best defense, man. I think Miami is traditionally a great, low-post defending team. Yannick is also going to bring him in the long term to the next level, but they can slowly take some time with him. I think it's a good thing for them to throw a late first round pick at him.
Yeah, and if there's two organizations that I would trust with Yannick and Sosa, one of them would be Miami, the other one would be Toronto. All right, so Chris, probably one of my favorite teams to watch in the NBA right now. We talked about them on our last Break in the Game show with my buddy Kenneth. You're going to be picking 27th overall for the Chicago Bulls. And I mean, if you look at the way this team is constructed, they got ball handling for days. They have one guy at the 4 who is a rookie who can't really stay healthy. They got Javonte Green even giving them minutes at that spot too. And then not to mention they have Vucevic at the 5 there. So the team that's got a lot already, their bench needs a little bit of filling out though to go along with Ayo Dosunmu. So which way are you going to go?
I'm going to give him a guy who could do a little bit of everything. Who's a great playmaker. Is another guy who's improved in another season.
I think I know where
you're
going.
Back. I'm going to go Jordan Hall.
Oh, wow, okay.
Going Jordan Hall. He, like I said, he could do a little bit of everything. He's averaging, I think, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Around 16, 17 points a game. Was a guy who flirted last year with the draft. I think he just does everything really well. And I think you plug him in with Boston, with the Chicago, and just give him another guy who can play make. They have so many guys who can handle the ball. Why not give him another guy who could do it, in the second unit? So to me, I've been a Jordan Hall fan for a while. I have him as a first-round pick. And to me, put him in Chicago, play with that second unit, and he could do some good things, so I'm going to go Jordan Hall.
He and Dosunmu off the bench and Caruso for Chicago. That's a scary, just three guard lineup. A lot of good decision making there. And Hall, his swing skill is going to be 3-point shooting, which is not super sexy, but it's also respectable, right? Which is what you want at his position. All right, so with the 28th pick, my last pick in this mock draft 2.0, I'm going to be picking for the Memphis Grizzlies again. Wow, so Ersin, you helped me get Sohan. I helped us get Harrison Ingram. I feel like we've dabbled a little bit on both of those ends. How about, I'm going to deviate from what I was wanting to do in the first place here. How about I give us Wendell Moore out of Duke? Let's go ahead and get another guy here.
Another
Because
Dookie.
another Dookie. I mean, they have the Anthony Melton's. Why didn't go Keels? Because they have that point of attack defender. But they could be losing Tyus Jones. Now, Wendell Moore isn't as good of a playmaker as Tyus Jones, but I still think that he is a capable scorer, capable passer, rebounder, just all around good talent. And I think with the team with the Memphis Grizzlies, the way they're constructed now, I think that he fits in a little bit more seamlessly next to a John Morant potentially. And then not to mention Harrison Ingram and Zaire Williams and Jeremy Sohan, all these other young guys here. So I think that, Wendell Moore has a little bit more of that table setting ability, which is why I like him here at 28 for the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, so Ersin, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, you're helping me out now, right? Because I picked Jabari Smith, and then later on I picked Kendall Brown. You're on the clock here for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Their last pick, your last pick, our last pick is teammates here picking for them. Which direction are you going to go?
I'm going to give Josh Giddey a great pick and roll partner, a great pick and roll rollman. I'm going with Ismail Kamagate.
Yes, love it. I almost took him. I'm glad that I didn't.
I think he's perfect for Josh Giddey. He's a great pick and roll playmaker. Ismail Kamagate does everything, in the post. I think he shots a mid-range shot as well, and he's shooting from the mid-range. He isn't shooting from deep yet. I think defensively he held his ground. I think he's a monster, a real paint monster. He's a strong rebounder. But the pick and roll rollman offense, that's what you're buying in, man. And I think that's what Josh Giddey needs in this draft. Ismail Kamagate.
All right, man. I don't hate it. There are guys that I would have taken over him, but positionally, I like him at center. I'm starting to think he might be my favorite center, not named Chet Holmgren or Jalen Duren, depending on if Chet is a center or not. No one really talks about Chet as a center, right? But I like Ismail Kamagate a latte, right? So, Chris, last pick here for you. It's the only pick for the Golden State Warriors, and it's the last pick for our Draft Capital Mock Draft 2.0. So sad to see it go, but we're coming up on an hour and a half here. We got to call it a day sometime. Which way are you gonna go for probably the hottest team? Not to mention Klay Thomas is coming back. I don't know, or Thompson. I don't know if anybody knew that, but Klay is coming back. Klay's back, and they're super deep. And Steph Curry's an MVP date. How are we gonna help the rich get richer here?
I want to give him Caleb Houston. He's a guy that came in a lot of hype. Thought maybe potentially a top 10 pick. Obviously, he's had a up and down year, but Michigan as a whole has had a very disappointing year. Still shows some flashes of scoring and all that. And to me, at 30, that'll be great value for the team that has so much talent right now. And they're going to lose some guys, potentially Iguodala and Damian Lee. So, I think Caleb Houston, being the last pick in the first round, not where he probably thinks he'll end up, or a lot of people thought, like I said, starting the year. But to me, the talent is there, and he's another of those guys that we might see in the pre-draft process that might get his stock back up, because he's one of those guys that just may be in a bad situation. And so I think Caleb Houston at 30, you're going to go in the state, you're going to do good things. You're going to be able to have a lot of open shots with especially with Klay back finally, and Steph and Wiggins and all that, and Draymond. They got so many playmakers that can give you the ball. And what better situation to groom a young guy and get the potential out of them. So Caleb Houston to round out the first round.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this. Yes, they have Moses Moody, and you could argue that those two are a little bit redundant, but they're also losing Damian Lee. So you're not going to be able to pay everybody for Golden State, Jordan Poole.
He's going to get a nice contract too, Damian Lee.
Yeah, I mean, the family ties or not, he's going to want to get his money, right? So, fellas, that wraps up our Draft Capital Mock Draft 2.0. Just want to touch on some names that did not get drafted that I think people are going to be a little upset about here. Let's start here. Trevor Kills, number one guy on my board that didn't get drafted. Jan Montero. Let's see here. Max Christie, Christian Braun, Hung Jung Lee. Julian
Bryce
Champagny.
McGowan's.
Yeah. Bryce McGowan's, Michael Foster here, Rocco Perkison,
Local.
Alex Fudge, Christian Coloco, Peyton Watson falling down people's boards as well. Bryce McGowan's. Let's see here. Anybody else worth noting? I know that there is a Jaime Jaquez Jr. hive out there that is probably upset not to see him getting drafted. Walker Kessler is making a lot of buzz lately. Melendez Williams, let's see here. Who else? I know that I'm missing a couple of names that, even though if I don't mention them, even not being drafted, Blake Wesley, Aminu Muhammad, Musa Diabate, Khalifa Jacques, Gabriel Darion Sebron, another one, Alondes Williams. There's a lot of guys that didn't get drafted that I know that have a pretty strong following that are going to be upset.
Max Christie too.
Max Christie. Yep. So, I mean, a lot of guys didn't get drafted, but, I mean, there are only 30 draft selections in a first round, and sometimes it shakes out this way. So,
second round picks are going to be super valid. Like, there's never been a time in these last few years where second round picks, like, you used to be like, second round pick, whatever. You don't even, whatever. I don't care about. Now it's like, no, you need to go get some second round picks because there's some serious talent you can get in the second round. So.
I mean, and that's what Denver just did. They just added a second round pick from Detroit today with the Bowl trade. So maybe out of all those moves that happened, that second round pick ends up being the most valuable. So, fellas, we're gonna wrap it up here. Just want to thank everyone who watched and listened and tuned in for doing so. And Ersin, again, I would love to just give you the floor just to kind of let the people know where they can find you and your work one more time, brother.
You can find me at EDemNBA on Twitter. I tweet mostly about the NBA draft, about the New York Knicks, but the general NBA, film breakdown, writing articles, following a lot of players, how they're doing. So I think this season is really what I really got serious with the NBA draft, more than previous years. So there's a lot of good things coming, until draft day.
Till draft day, man, and you're doing a lot of great work, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on the show today. I love that we talk all the time, dude, about different prospects, and you're just like, hey, man, how do you think about this guy? And I love the dialogue that we have, man. You're a true gem, and I'm glad that we have you.
I appreciate
Chris,
it,
dude, yeah, absolutely, man. Chris, before we close out, you're back again. Glad to have you back. What are you thinking about the draft cycle so far, where prospects are, and do you have any closing thoughts for our audience today?
Yeah, like I said, happy to be back. That's the getting back in the groove. Starting to watch some more tape of guys. Especially in that that 20 to 40, 50 range. To me, that's where I think everyone has the same top 15. Whether you have this guy at one spot, but figuring out that is I've been trying to do, but. Yeah, I mean, it's just fun. I just like doing the draft cycle. It's so much fun just evaluating all that, seeing, try to find those diamonds in the rough and all that. It's always fun doing the draft and all that. So, going to be working on the big board again. Like I said, I probably moved it. I just moved it 3 guys right now while we're doing the show. It's just a matter of it's so much fun. And I can do it to you guys, getting to talk about these prospects, guys you like. And, there's so many guys. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, I didn't even think about this guy. And then you watch him and, that's the fun part. I feel like every day you find a new guy that you didn't even hear about. And you're like, oh, well, I got to watch more of him. So to me, that's the most fun part about doing all this. But yeah, this is a pleasure to do with you guys and chop it up. And this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, I had a really big blast doing this, and creating even a top 100 is tough because I have people that aren't even in my top 100 that I have a lot of emotional investment in that I just love watching play. But at the end of the day, you got to make cuts, and there's going to be snubs at whatever number you decide to leave off of, how many players you want to evaluate. So for Draft Capital here, though, just major shout outs to the folks at Built Bar, to the folks over on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. Big shout out to our special guest today, Ersin Demir. Shout out to our president of Off the Ball Network and co-host Chris LeBron, and to all you lovely listeners and viewers. Just again, please go subscribe to the Draft Capital podcast. Go look us up on Twitter as well at Draft Capital NBA, and we're gonna keep pumping out content. I got a show coming up with CJ Marchesani Monday where we're gonna be talking about. it's going to be, you know, Blake Wesley is going to be one of the guys. We're going to talk about Aminu Muhammad, Darion Sebron, Alondes Williams, and even Isaiah Mobley. So a lot of fun players that could be sneaking up into your boards. And if they're not, maybe they should be. But we'll wrap up here, and we'll catch up with y'all next time.